Hello, listeners. This is A Cup of Tea, part two of our three-part diary entry with John Greaney of Relatively Painless Tattoo, located in Scotland. But as you'll find out, that's not where John's from. Enjoy, listeners. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Well, I think that artists, I don't know. My dad, he, maybe it was just his way. He was a very technical learner, and I'm not. I'm a very intuitive learner, but I think that artists, we tend to get in our heads a little too much and think about things, and it stresses us out so that we do get so frustrated. I know I do it with my boyfriend. Like, he's just like, I don't like it when you yell at me. And I'm like, well, I don't yell at you right away. I tell you about 3 times before I ended up yelling at you. But like, what finally ended up helping the conversation was when I was, we had another discussion. I said, look, hon, you have to understand that I manage people's forever. When people come to me to put something on their body permanently, they're committing to something that's far more than even a lot of the marriages that are going around these days. Like, they're committing to a forever mark, and I have to take that very seriously. And it's a lot to manage. And so if I feel like I'm having to overly manage something or overly communicate something, it's very frustrating to me. Now, he's a full-grown adult. I don't know how I would be towards a child, but I'm pretty sure I'd be the same as you. Like, I'd freak out. I'm a lot like my mom too. Like, I'm not somebody anybody like cares about disappointing. They're like, she's a little hyper. I'm just speaking about my dad. I'm just like saying I had a really great dad. He wasn't there all the time. It didn't matter that he was there all the time. What mattered was when he was there, he wanted to be there, and he played with me, and he made a lot of stupid jokes, and he was silly, and I just appreciated the fact that life could be fun when I was with my dad. So that was cool.
My own dad. I mean, he he was always work. He was like when I was a kid. Both my mum and dad always worked, and that. But I don't know. It's just I know my wife feels the same. Like when you're on the receiving end, so to speak, like you become the parent. I suppose. I mean, it might have been the same with my mum and dad. I don't know. They might have had the same ideas like, oh, I need to be here 24/7. You want to be here with them 24/7, and it's just like it becomes this thing that you don't get to do, and it's a frustration and all that. So I don't know if they felt the same, but when you actually just sit back and just relax about it a minute, it's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless you're a multi-millionaire with no real concerns or any aspirations, then and you just want to sit around and look after your child all day, then that's absolutely spot on.
Well, and even then, would you be serving them?
Yeah, it's not, but
it's kind of like those kids in arts class where they're not really that great, but you're always there. You're always telling them how great of an artist they are and passing them along through. Yeah, you're always there, but are you really preparing them for life?
Yeah.
Most relationships, you're not going to be able to be around them all the time. Like, I would love to spend all my time with Rico. And if we were independently wealthy, I guess we would, but I can't, I can't. It would be awesome. But that's the thing, is that like, and that's something COVID did too, was it it was always a thing for me. Like, I always felt like I was being integral to everyone else, but I also think too is that I really wanted to have a little bit more balance between my work and my friendships, my relationships. I wanted to meet know my family a little bit more. So I can understand that, because I don't even have kids, but I realized that so much of what I put myself into was tattooing. I love tattooing. And it serves me and provides me a lot. It's a blessing, but there's a lot of people I didn't check in with during a lot of years of my life that,
Yeah.
and it's weird because they all think I'm cool as shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of an asshole sometimes. I'm really not that cool. Like, honestly, I'm not cool at all. I'm boring as shit. The only thing cool about me is that I can tattoo. That's it. I'm pretty vanilla. And I mean, people don't think that, but I think I'm pretty vanilla because I don't want to go out raging or do anything, or I'm not interested.
get a couple of these like young laddies that come in getting tattooed and all that, and like, must be great having this job and everything. I'm like, man, yeah, it's wicked. I love it. It's not a job to me. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh, and like all the money and all that you must work and everything, making, you must go out and party all the time, do loads of drugs and things like that. I'm like, no, I
No.
go home
Yeah.
and just chill. I have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I have a cup of tea, a coffee.
What's your favorite tea?
My favorite tea, Earl
Mm-hmm.
Grey.
Earl Grey. Do you do it with
Grey.
cream?
No, no. You know what? This is a really odd thing that you should mention. Cream. Now, when you say cream, do you mean actual cream,
Well,
not
cream or
milk?
milk, or, do you, I mean,
I do it with milk,
okay.
but I don't know if this is like a, just a difference in words. But I do listen. I listen to a lot of podcasts, of varying degrees, of varying things. And someone was talking the other day about having granola with cream when they want to feel a little naughty. And I'm like, well, okay. But it was the cream thing of it I found interesting. And then people having cream in tea. Now we just have plain simple milk. But is that what you're meaning? Milk
Well,
or actual? Because
I
I'm
know
missing
that
some.
you're from you're from England, so your tea is important. I know that that's like a huge cultural thing. So for
Oh,
me,
we were
it's,
built on it.
oh, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I just want to know how you take your Earl Grey, because to me, if you were to drink Earl Grey, you would want to emulate the people who, like, do it best.
Um, no, just well, I drink it two ways. If I'm dependent on my mood, I like it with no milk, just tea bag left in, the Earl Grey left in, and that's it. Nothing. And then if I don't know if I'm feeling a little sassy, get some milk and sugar in there. Do you know what I mean? And I might feel like piling on a few pounds, feeling a bit cheeky. I'll put some sugar in it. Namely, sugar these days.
You know what I
It's
just
like,
did? We want to talk about fatty tastic, but it's amazing. Um, I took white vanilla chocolate chips and I put them in the bottom of my cup, just enough to like cover the bottom. And then I put a shot of espresso, like stirred that up, and then put a little bit of half and half on that, and oh, so good.
oh
It was
shit,
amazing.
that's funny. I'm going to get in chocolate chips tomorrow.
I was
Put
like,
that on
this
the
is a
shopping.
repeat. I was like, yeah, this seems like it would work. I mean, they have a white chocolate mocha in Starbucks. I mean, why wouldn't it work? It did. It worked. And I was like, ooh, this is gonna be deadly, because I could definitely lose some lose some weight. And I'm not working on that right now. I got lots that I'm trying to, you know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that with all the other things that I'm trying to conquer, that my body will enjoy the lack of stress, because I'm feeling really good about a lot of things I'm doing. So I'm hoping that if I'm not very stressed out, and I'm not taking things in my body as a reaction and as a coping mechanism, but rather just like a treat, or like a, I don't know, like a celebration, maybe it won't have such dire ramifications. I don't know. One can only hope. I'm trying not to be completely deluded, but it was really good. I'm just gonna say that was a really good concoction.
I'll find. All right, I'll find out tomorrow. I'll let you know.
I'm telling you, man, it's good. Yeah, no, I'm just like you. And I honestly, for everybody that I know that tattoos for a living, even the ones that have, big shops. I mean, my friend Halo, he's, when he looks like a rock star, everything, but everything's, very big and flashy with him, but he's not. He's just a big nerd and he's awesome. And everything that he does, he tries to put back into what he loves. Like, so, his money that he makes him more money. And that's just how he tries to be. And that's a good business person, but it's also a person that's conscientious. He, at one point we had a conversation about, money and stuff. And he was like, why do I want to make more money? And I was like, I hear you. Like, if you're content, that's fine. I said, but the sky's the limit if you make more money. I mean, you could not tattoo. Well, I love to tattoo. Okay, well then tattoo more and expand your shop. Let more people in, teach people. I was like, you could paint more. He's like, well, I have wanted to paint more. I said, okay, well then do that. I was like, if you have more money, you can have more time to do some of the things that you really love to do that maybe you don't feel like you have the time to do right now. Money offers a lot of freedom. I was like, but it's not for me to say, what kind of money you want to make, but I do think that if you are, and this is something that I'm trying to be better at, I will admit, without kids, I mean, you're taking on a lot and you have taken on a lot of things that I think are amazing, which is, owning your own shop. And you'd think that me being a small business owner's daughter, that I would think, oh, I'll own my own place. No, I mean, for me, it was like, that's a lot of responsibility. Like that's huge. Like I think I want to work under somebody instead because then I can come and go as I please. I'm not tethered. But what's wonderful about stepping into responsibility is how much you know about yourself. And it's also how much people will actually validate the things that you have to say. So I've realized that as much as I don't have to yield as much responsibility wise, nobody wants to listen to me. And I want to be listened to. I have a podcast. If I want any kind of authority or any kind of thing for people to listen to, I have to step into some responsibility. I can't just sit here and think that I'm going to call people to me. So, interviewing people like you, I mean, just for the podcast alone, I think this is a nice space where I can explore it and at the very least be vulnerable for people who are equally struggling, and to let them know that whatever struggles they're having, I'm having them too, and that's the thing with tattooing, right? Or any kind of profession is once you're up and going and you're making the money, it never stops. Like you just keep setting goals. Like it, like, it just keeps going. Like you think that you're going to arrive at something. You don't arrive. Like it just keeps happening.
Yeah, it's very, very true.
So how many, so you had your apprenticeship. It wasn't the greatest. Can you talk about it? Did you get hazed? Like, what did it look like?
Oh,
I can still hear you.
oh yeah. Am I still on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oh, it went off. How do you describe it? It was funny.
Oh, good. That's good.
Funny. It was for all the wrong reasons. It was funny. No, I mean it was all right. Not hazing, not really, not anything like that. To be honest, I'm fully aware of it, or I've been made aware of it through the years. I have, unless someone knows me to speak to me, who's been in conversation with more than 5 minutes, I have a bit of an intimidating look about me. So people are not always too forward. Being a dick towards me is very rare, face to face. I mean, I've had plenty on social media and things, but generally face to face, no.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, I'm one for kind of questioning stuff to me. What's that supposed to mean? Not really defensive, but like I will call it out immediately. So I've never really had that. There's a lot, but where I was, it's just a lot like on that page. Like sometimes like you're hearing stuff, people say stuff, you're like, what? Like total bullshit being panned around the place. Like there's total nonsense, provable nonsense for one, and also just factual nonsense that how can you stand there and say just about generally about it could be about the weather. Like you could see the sun's outside and they'll say that rain's shocking. It's just some bizarre people I work with, but a lot of them were like, a lot of them were kind of controlled by the owner. There seems to be a lot of control by the owner, and for want of a better word, she had trained everybody within the business, and had picked people who were essentially for apprenticeship. Had picked people who weren't very good artistically. In my opinion, you would not have sort of came to my door. Any one of them people come to my door looking for an apprenticeship, showed me a portfolio of which I don't think was ever done there. It was like, I want an apprenticeship. Let me see you draw something. Well, that's rubbish. You've got the job. For this feeling of power, control. And it was bizarre. It was odd. And anybody who, obviously there's people who worked there who weren't trained there, and came through the doors, and were also, good at what they did. They wouldn't last long because there would be like this whole, there'd be meetings held about them, that type of thing. It was a very weird scenario, ran by an alleged Buddhist. If you can get your head around that,
I can.
Meant.
I think people make a lot of claims about the faiths they practice without actually practicing them.
Really? Like,
yeah.
Okay. But I got the fundamentals out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of locked my head down, ignored the bullshit. If it came my way and was aimed my way, I'd be like, you're talking nonsense. Like, what? Sorry?
Yeah.
You got something to say? Say it loud and proud, sweetheart, something like that. I'd shut it down immediately. It wouldn't really come, it just never really kind of came my way. It sort of came to a head, pretty much near the end, just as I left, and I was leaving anyway at that point, albeit that it was kept hush hush at that time. It was just because you were branching out, you were learning things, and then your work would be getting better and better and better. And I think there was obviously holds on what you were being taught, or a lack thereof of ability to teach you more. That's what I felt about the place. Mm-hmm. And because I was going beyond in every way I could to learn more and more, like I was saying, the finessing of things and find out my own thing, and not sticking to, well, we'll just copy the Cherry Creek off the laptop there. That's what they asked for. I'm like, what? And then I'd come up with something far more elaborate and more along my style or whatever. And then that puts you on the radar of, oh, they think they're too big for their boots. And then there's meetings and chats amongst others and stuff like that. And you know what? There's some amazing people there, really nice people, but they would not. And it was so odd, this strange sense of loyalty towards her, that they would stab you in the back no matter how nice they were, and how nice you were with them and how friendly you were. They would instantly turn on you the moment anything came up, even though they knew in themselves that everything that they were being taught, or it wasn't about what they were being taught. I have to make that clear. Not really about what they were being taught, but how you should behave morally towards one another.
Sounds very cultish.
Yeah, it was. That's what we call it. I don't want to say her name, but it was called. a group of us who were no longer there. We called it the cult of.
Yeah.
We were literally, and a couple of people who've been saved from it. They've like, I can't believe I was like, it's indoctrinated into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those, in fact, most of those people who were kind of embroiled in that shop no longer exists. Neither does that person tattooing, and anybody who was there who kept with it and kept in that mindset along with them, no longer tattoo,
Mm-hmm.
would never expand. So that was
Right.
kind of my style, wasn't it? But like I said, I won't fully knock it because I got out of it what I needed,
Right.
and then essentially I did the rest. Which where that's where going back to like that page, I've always felt, yeah, I can be negative about some of the things, but then I'm a kind of an amalgamation of the two things, self-taught and apprenticed.
Well,
I've had the experience of
everybody is, you know.
yeah, well, of course everybody is when they start to
Yeah.
do their own thing and do their own style. You find, and obviously there is an element, I don't think customers ever want to hear it, but you make up as you go along, and you do.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're keeping your fundamentals true, you can kind of start to, I'm just going to do this now, try this out,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and a lot of it is, you know, I usually let clients know when we're about close to being done. My dad has this thing in hair. Every time he finishes a hairstyle, he would say, "Look at that! I got lucky again." You know, and that's kind of the thing is that, and it's that way with everything. And I think that's about teaching people a practical way of thinking and what you actually exist within. There's a reason why they call it medical practice. It's because they are practicing medicine. Like there isn't, when you're dealing with human beings, we're not, you know, we are destined to die. We are destined to have pain and suffering, no matter who we are. The human condition, I don't think, is removed from that. And like the safest place in the world for us is a rubber room where we would, you know, only put the most hardened criminals of our world, because that's the worst punishment you can give a human being. Our joy is in interacting with each other. And I think that if you can be a person who allows your client to trust you, then there's no matter to what, like you said, let's try this. They'll be like, okay, let's do it. That's awesome. That sounds great. I want to be a part of this cool art thing that I don't know anything about, but you know everything about it. So I'm going to trust you. And it's not to say that I know what I'm doing. I just trust, like you said, the fundamentals of what I know enough that I know that whatever happens, I'm going to get through. And it's going to look seamless to them because they don't know anything. And you know, I'm going to learn, and they're going to get an awesome art piece. But they are very much so blessings because they're practice in a lot of ways. I mean, for me, that's kind of why I like now giving apprentices, if they are come my way and I know them, you know, some spot on my body, because I can inform them as they're tattooing me. And then I have this little gem of somebody's beginning on me that, you know, I'm part of their story. And I think that's what clients really like too, is I like calling them collectors, because I feel like they're collecting, you know, they're collecting little trinkets on their life and kind of framing them on their body. And it's this really cool bond that you get to experience with another person. It's really neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you know, when you have shop environments like that, you can't formulate that kind of bond with your client, you know. And I think that's what really gets a lot of people to want to leave, is because they know that they can reach a person really, really well if they're not being barked at by this systematic framework that says that they have to bow to this person, you know. Like if the company ethic is so strong, then a client can't come in and like feel good about being there. It's like going into Starbucks and you say, I want a small coffee. And they're like, you mean a tall? And I'm like, no, a fucking small, man. Like nowhere else in the world is this said this way, but like they got to make it all bougie. And that way it's about the brand of the studio and not about the client. And it should be about the client. And whilst that might seem cool and everything, it's definitely niche. It's definitely marketed and branded. It doesn't allow any way for an artist to signature anything, you know? And it's not that you're trying to be too big, but we are trying to be signature, you know? Like I can't walk into Starbucks and create like a whole drink and then start selling it and say like, this is the Amy special. I'd probably get fucking fired because, you know, like, no, man, this is our menu. Stick to it. Like, you got to do this. And, you know, like that's what people come for, I guess. But like, there's not really much room for an artist in those spaces because we just, you know, we don't want to follow the rules like that. We want to push the boundaries and play. And people like being a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you got out of that. How long did you experience that shop before you finally left?
It was a little while. Can't really remember. About a year or so. A couple of years.
That's not bad.
Something like that.
Long enough to be like, okay.
Long enough, yeah. Not long enough for this.
Now, did you work in a few different shops after that? What happened after?
No, that's where the other experience comes in. I went straight and I'm like, I cannot work for an idiot again.
Yeah.
Except the biggest idiot I know, which is me. So I went get my own shop. So this, I'm gonna do it myself.
Awesome.
Which I mean, it's great, but that was tough. That was difficult. I was wildly naive at what I thought would be a simple thing. Not a simple thing. I never thought it was simple, but I never thought it'd be as difficult as it was. To start and what work there was involved in that. You know, I just thought, you know, you just get a place, set it up, tattoo all day, and pay your rent. That's it. It's all good. It's easy. It's easy. It's literally like handing over to a shop owner, but instead I'm paying it to a letting agent, you know, but no. It's more than that.
What would you so I asked a friend of mine about it because I was thinking about opening up a shop, but I'll admit it, I'm very scared. I'm very scared to manage people. It's not that I can't manage myself. I think that I just have issue managing people. And he said, you know, honestly, the hardest thing is just wearing a lot of different hats. He's like, because you don't get to just be the artist. You don't get to be, you know, just one aspect of it. You have to wear every hat. And that's what's so mind-boggling is that, like, you know that you could do any one of the jobs really well if you could just do one of them, but you can't. You have to do all of them. And he's like, you know, if you think you can, you know, do that, but just get ready because like, I can't give you any warning. You just have to take it day at a time and roll with it as it comes and, you know, work with people, you know, that's really it. And I was like, oh man, like, you know, you want some kind of key. I remember I listened to Ami James. He was doing a talk in a non-denominational synagogue because he's Jewish and he actually fought for the Israeli army. And he said he met under I want to say a rabbi, but like one of the elite like rabbi. I don't know if that was it, but like a holy man, like a spiritual guy. And he, you know, he had tattoos and he said to him, you know, he wanted to ask him like, you know, does God have issue with me tattooing or being tattooed? Like, is it bad that I'm tattooed? Because that's like a big thing in all faiths is like, is this okay? And the holy man just looked back at him and he's like, that's between you and God. And Ami James is like, man, I was looking for him to give me something concrete, but it's not like that. It's between you and God, And I think that's what I've been grappling with a lot, is just I guess trusting myself, trusting my relationship, trusting my faith, or like my competency or whatever. But yeah, I admire that a lot, even though you admit to going into it very blindly and just and saying that you didn't anticipate it being that hard. I admire that, screw it, I'm going to do this. I can do it better than what was done to me. I've never had that.
That was my only mantra going in. I'll do it better than what I've seen. I know what not to do.
Yeah.
And as long as I know that, I think I'll always be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. That mantra, my childlike sense of wonder, and then the rest of it, stupidity, and just went for it. And that was it. And I've been all right since. It's all been good. It's always been good. It's been sitting up and down, but it's the beauty of my shop is it's very small. I've kept it very small. I've always kept it small. I've had designs on bigger, but then the whole idea of that has exhausted me. Just thinking, no, do I want to do that? But things are different now. I know more. I know a lot more, and I'm very established now as well. Because I started out not only not knowing what I was doing, owning a business, but not established. So you've got the fact that you ain't getting business soon as it opens, and it's sporadic and things like that. And now I've got a far better idea what to do with that, and people with which to work in it if I got somewhere bigger. I've networked a lot more now and stuff. But and not only that, if I had somewhere bigger, it would definitely become a family affair, because my wife is a manager. She works in management.
Oh, awesome.
She wants to leave her job. She's always wanting to do that, and she said I would run the tattoo shop, but it's not feasible at our size. It's unnecessary, and well, it's probably necessary because I'm a shit manager. But the size wise, it's just not.
It could probably scale really fast. With her in there, like she probably wouldn't need very long for it to prove itself very quickly.
So we had the idea of that for a few years, and then kind of wanted to time it with the end of the lease, because they have like 3-year leases, and that's kind of gone on, and hope for it more in the last few recent couple of years. But then COVID happened, and that impacted savings a lot and things like that. And because that is a definite thing I learned, is ensure you have the backup before opening a business for the lean months when you start. Granted, that's not, it wouldn't be the same now. All I'm doing is expanding. I'm not starting from scratch, but you want to have that. Not only that, to create a nice space.
Right.
You need the money up front to do all that and things. So while we have recouped our losses and saved more on top, still it's still edgy, and things here, with Brexit and obviously Ukraine and Russia, the cost of living has gone up here a lot. So making a bigger jump, I think, is a little bit further down the road. But that'd be good. And I'd like that. Some people might not want to work with their better half, but mine is literally my better half, and I'm quite happy to do that. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Do you have apprenticeships in your shop?
I have had. I don't have any current apprentices, and I don't know if I will again.
Would you charge for apprenticeship?
No, I've never. I found that an odd thing.
Yeah.
Generally, to my knowledge, not just through my experience, but others in the UK, that is a very odd thing, which I found quite surprising. I only learned through being on that thing that was a thing. Like, what? My immediate reaction to that was like, you're being conned. Nobody pays for an apprenticeship. To which was met with complete abuse. But I'm like, well, I don't know. Then you need to speak to more UK artists, because you don't pay.
Right.
You do not get paid.
Right.
We never got paid. I never got paid. Most never get paid anything, but you don't pay for it either.
Right.
The way I've always done mine.
Hey, are you somebody who likes to draw? Are you somebody who wants to draw better? Are you someone who tattoos? Are you somebody who wants to tattoo better? Well, then I recommend that you go to our special offer in our show notes of this podcast page. Our website is theapprenticeshipdiaries.com, and on this page you'll find all our listed episodes. Within there, the show notes, there will be a link, TAD 10. Click on there and find yourself 10% off a year's worth of the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon. It will make you better.
Again, looking at it from what did I have to do versus what can they do? What can I do to better that experience? It's not just in what, it's not just about like just being nice to them, because a lot of it there is a lot of like just being nippy towards the apprentice, whether that's tattooing or any kind of where you serve apprenticeships, bricklaying and things like that. There's that element of hazing and so forth. But like I said, I didn't really get that. But the monetary side of things, I understand what it's like to struggle. I get that, and I understand that, and you get people, and I know a lot of them are younger. Apprentices that I've had have been younger with less responsibilities, but you don't want that worry over your head when you're trying to learn something. Like I've never really liked that. So I've always given the opportunity to have part-time jobs, and from the get-go, which I think has helped them. It's almost like a double-edged sword, but positive on both sides. Is that part of it is for your learning. Make sure you're drawing, doing all your stuff that you need to do. For me, I want to see that you're doing it and you're committed, but get it all out there on social media. Get all of the tattoos are available. Now, you won't be doing them. I will do them, and I'll pay you for doing them. So I give them what I would usually give shop cut, or what shop cut people give to me, I will give to them for their tattoo.
Right.
And there's two things. One, you're learning money. One, you're earning money. And two, people are seeing your art and then seeing it as a tattoo. So by the time you're starting, they're following your journey now more than ever with social media. They're following your journey and seeing your work, which you can lay claim to. I don't want, they obviously said that I'm not doing it because they don't want people going like, oh, can you come and do me now? Like, that's not how it's working. John at the shop's doing them for me, but this is my work, this is my design. Each of the apprentices that I've had, once they've moved on to start tattooing and junior artists, off the bat, they've got made to measure clients.
Right.
Straight away. They've had clients immediately. And
right.
I mean, frustrating to me, I'm the one still doing in between the stuff I'm doing. I'm doing all this typical street shop stuff, and they're just doing all their own cool stuff all day long. But set them on that thing in the right way. And not only that, they're doing stuff in their wheelhouse. So they're doing good tattoos. They're doing stuff they're enjoying doing because it's their style. And they're applying the fundamentals that I've given, and they're there for allowing, and they're comfortable with it. There's less stress, I feel, when you're into something that it's definitely you, that it's your thing. It's what you like to do. So everyone's kind of getting a start off with a jump because they've got all these people already waiting for them, and they're really good at it from the get-go.
Right.
Mine have gone on really quick, really fast. I think I've been lucky at the apprentices that I've had. I mean, I've had a couple that didn't last, but that was I'll sort that out pretty quick. I'm laid back, but if something ain't right, it ain't right, and I'll be gone. But the girls that I've had, because I've had two apprentices, and they both just got it immediately. They've got everything immediately. And I don't know if that's down to me or them as people, but they've pushed them as well. They push for wanting more, and I've obviously give more, but they just instantly grasped tattooing more than I've seen other people do it, more than I did when I started. It's just been really quite plain sailing with them, and really good, and they've gone and doing and they're going. My most recent one, when did she start tattooing proper? She's like junior artist from January January this year. And she's just doing great now, doing really good work and improving all the time and stuff like that. So yeah, but I feel that I think obviously now with my business and home life and things like that, I don't think I'll do it again. Right. I've got other things I need to concentrate on, and not that I don't want to give it, but I don't feel if I can't give 100% to them, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be able to give, not be able to do it without giving it my all.
Right.
They're getting everything out of it they need, and while that has worked out, everything has worked out well for people I have done it for. I just feel that I want to have more time to do other things and not have that worry, because to me it's a worry. If I don't feel that someone's learning, it's worrying me, it's stressing me that they're not getting out of it what they want. So
yeah,
what I want to do.
I found that too. With my last apprentice, we were under the idea that it would take as long as it took, but because of where I was in my life, I only had a private studio. I just saw that they were not going to learn what they needed to. They needed a shop vibe. They needed more work, more often, more hours put into it. That this is not gonna, and I wasn't available to them in the ways that I wanted to be either. Because like you said, you have to make your own money, and this was, an idea that I didn't charge them for anything. And the reason why I asked about charging is because when I started tattooing, I was offered two different paths. Either I work for free and it took what it took. And that was later. At first, it was you'll have to pay me, because in his mind, he had all the workers that he needed in his shop. Like he had a piercer, he had himself, he had multiple artists, he had a front end person. He didn't need an apprentice. For him, it was like, if I needed an apprentice, I would have an apprentice, and they would facilitate certain duties that I already have all these other people for. But and he said, and for me to take time out of my schedule making money, I'm going to have to charge you for the knowledge that you're going to get here. And, and he gave me a pretty much a prospectus of what it would be, like how long, what that money would be invested into for him. And then, basically kind of like the thing that you hear about a lot of things is like, if you invest this much and you really dedicate yourself to it, once you get started, you'll probably make your money back very quickly. Which, as getting into tattooing, our machines are very expensive, but in a day you can pay for your machine if you're a good artist, like not a problem. Yeah. So, it seems like a lot of money up front, but when you really start tattooing, and that's what he told me, is like when you start tattooing, you'll make all that money back very quickly. So at the time, I didn't have the ability to do that because it was right after 2008 market crash here, all of that stuff, the housing market crash. Nobody was giving out loans because we had just come off of all of these faulty loans. Like you had to, and I wasn't in any position where people would even give me a loan to do something like that, or even a credit card was, hard to like come up with that kind of money. So I told him, I was like, I don't have that money. But I am interested, and if, if ever there's an opportunity. And then I think within a month or something, his piercer quit, or he had to fire him, and then he had to, his front end person was like, yeah, I'm moving in 2 weeks. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he like contacted me. He was like, hey, check your phone, check your messages. Like, what the hell? And he was like, I'll offer you an apprenticeship if you'll work for the time. And I said, yes, like I'll be there every, as much as I can. And I worked like a 35-hour week at my dad's hair salon. And then I spent another, 35 to 40 hours, being there, whenever, and doing, like you said, all manner of things. Um, taking out the trash, scrubbing tubes, learning about the autoclave, learning about how each individual tattoo artist liked to run their schedule, what their picadillos were, how they like to interact with their clients, like what they put in their coffee, like everything, everything. And it was great. But yeah, I don't think either one is bad. I think for me, if somebody asks you to pay them, I always tell people, get a contract written, make sure that everybody has agreed to terms, and that you have some semblance of a syllabus, or some semblance of like things of where you can address, okay, we're here now, this is where we're going next, and this is where we're going to go next. And it might take as long as it takes, but that once you've accomplished these things, that this is where you're going next, so that you can hold that person accountable for what you've paid, and that everybody agrees to it and get it notarized. That's all I've ever said to people, is like, I'm not against people asking for money, because that's what educational systems are about. College, they give you a syllabus, you pay them, and they tell you you're going to learn X, Y, and Z, and it's going to take this long, and you're going to need these materials, and you sit and you get an education. So I'm not against
Yeah.
it. But I do like what you're saying, because again, it's being the kind of person that somebody would hate to let down. And I do think that you're that kind of guy. I don't know if I see you as intimidating. I see you more as just somebody that I wouldn't want to disappoint. So like, if you take somebody on like that and you're like, I'm not going to charge you, I'm going to share with you what I have, but you're going to have to hustle for it. You're going to have to earn it. It's a really nice agreement. It's not protected under any kind of big law, but I think that that's a nice agreement. And when you're not charging for it, I think that's a really nice way to go about it, because it's teaching people that people can help people, and people can serve each other without any of these controls, without anybody telling them why or how, and we can work really well together if we can all work well together. But I will say, like you said, if somebody is charging you, it automatically comes off like they're conning you, because they're, it makes it a business at that point. And when it makes it a business at that point, you have to know what you're in the business of, and you have to make sure that you guard yourself as a business would, which means you better put shit in paperwork form, and you better get a lawyer to sign off on it, because otherwise you might get conned and it's not cool.
No,
So
no.
but I like that. I like that. And I like that bit that you said about how when they start taking on people for free, that you will actually reward them with paying them a shop cut. That's really cool, because then that's the cookie that you need to like want to do more, and like see some, some momentum to what you're doing. I think that's a neat.
Yeah, that's I've always looked at it.
Yeah, that's
The,
good.
all the essentially all the pros of tattooing without actually tattooing.
Yeah.
You get money from your art through tattooing. It's just you're not doing it just yet, and
Hmm.
it adds fire to people as well.
That's awesome. Do you require anybody after you've, basically graduated them to a tattoo artist? Do they owe you any amount of time at your shop, or is it just like, yeah, you've graduated?
Well, I've had people say that to me before, like, you should really have people like you must be here for this long and all that. And I don't know, I've just always been kind of laid back with it. And just, I don't know. And yeah, I mean, my, my previous apprentice, who's a great artist, she's amazing. She left pretty sudden, but I think there was a number of factors with that. She kind of graduated and was tattooing, but she moved on pretty quick. But again, I didn't have an issue with it really. She's moving to another shop that there was, the shop I was totally aware of, and yeah, it's a really great artist. And again, I know that myself. Not that I operated in the way that I came from. It's about the finesse. Wanted to be around others who were doing different things than I was doing. I can't be mad at that.
Right.
I can't be mad at that at all. And also, I will say that at that point when she did leave, my shop wasn't the greatest of environments because I think I told you before, I did start with a business partner. And not
I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, I don't want to go massively into it. We are friends now. We certainly weren't when it ended, and it was a poor situation. It was, 100% from one person, 0% from another, and then resentment set in. Not really, trying everything to work it all out, and it never really did. And it caused anger and frustration, and it wasn't, not that it ever was an angry shop. We never, don't operate that, do not like that at all. But there was always an air of it. There's always air of
the parents were fighting.
Anger-ish. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not a nice environment to be in. And there was that, I feel, had something to do with it. And also there was the scene that, at the end of the day, that person's now working for us, providing us with money, which is then split between the two of us, and one person's just using that willy-nilly and almost mocking her efforts. And I felt, there was things like that. And it just didn't work out very well. But that was all sorted and got rid of. But I think there was an element of that with that situation. But overall, it was the wanting to progress more, and look down another avenue.
You're a cool dude. You can admit where you're lacking and. Okay. Part of the mission of this podcast is to share really awesome people with all of you. So go check out Eden Health. This is my friend John Simmons' company. Through it, he does acupuncture, nutrition, microneedling, light therapy, but it doesn't stop there, everyone. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I welcome all of you to meet him, go talk to him, reach out to him. You can find him at EdenHealthMD.com. Back to our podcast. That's awesome. That's it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really sweet. I think that's cool too. I don't know. You might not feel like you registered any of these things, but these are things that I felt about you on Facebook. You were carrying through all the way from Scotland via Facebook, and I could see it. So, just so you know. Oh, did I lose you? Pardon this brief interruption, diary listeners. I thought it would be good just to kind of fill this in with a little bit of an opportunity to say how much I love you guys. We had a bit of disconnect between John and I, and we're getting right back to it now. You're on audio now. I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, that's a definite dad moment. I'm looking so confused. Trying to work out what I'm saying here.
Oh man, it's not a dad moment. It's everything. I only know what I know because I forced myself to have a podcast.
Yeah. Don't out.
Which, by the way, this is a great alternative for doing consults with people. Like I mean, I like to meet people in person, but sometimes it's nice to do a consult like this. Like, if they're traveling from far, Zoom's really great for
Yeah,
that.
I've never thought of that actually. It's a good
Yeah, it's
idea.
neat. Yep. Since COVID, I really started using it. Just because everybody was so, they didn't want to travel more than they had to, and wanted to make sure that they were, not endangering anybody. I appreciate it for that reason. So it was a good way to, like, do consultations remotely and then just only meet for the tattoo and make sure we brought our A game and weren't sick or anything. But yeah, it's pretty good that way. Now that you've been vetted with Zoom. Now, but like I said, I like the possibility. Now I'm doing all my own audio editing, so I have to figure it out. So this is great. I had a little moment where I can go back in there and I can splice it and I can push it together and it'll be good, or I'll do something. I don't know. I think it's good, the resolve that you have moving forward. I mean, your child's very small, and I think it's a good idea for you to, make money. I mean, not that it matters what I think, but I can understand why right now you want to give a lot to your family, because you're creating a family. You have a young child. Your wife and you are supposed, trying to get closer together and combine your forces more. So it seems like that's appropriate. Yeah. And about your daughter, does she have any, just out of curiosity, does she like art?
She does. She's got quite, because it was from pretty much the moment she was born. I was like, "There's a pen. Hope she's like me, thinking that's going to do anything, like a moron." Um, but like as she's got a bit older, and when I'm sitting around like drawing and things, she's started doing it. And obviously, like kids do, you give them paper and paint and pens, and they start doing stuff. But then just in the last probably 7 months, she started really like drawing stuff more, and obviously she's getting older. It's legible. It's not just a blur. Um, to the point where I actually for fun, not really for fun because that sounds wrong, but like it was a joke. But I put a flash sheet together.
I saw that. I loved it.
Yeah. And then loads of them went, and she kept
That's
going
awesome.
about wanting a tablet. She wanted her own tablet. I want a tablet like you. I want to draw. I don't. There's no danger you're having a £1,200 iPad Pro at 4 year old. But we can maybe do something. But then I was like, well, how can I teach you something about, because as children do, they don't understand about money, the cost of things. They just want,
Mm-hmm.
But she kept going about wanting a tablet, and I drew this sheet for fun. I said, "Look what I've done," and all that. I said, "I'm going to put it up," and loads of people took them, and I charged a
Oh,
very
wow.
nominal fee for them, but uh, all the money I put in her savings,
Oh,
and
for the iPad.
yeah, so she could save up her own money. So I've seen it as like it's a couple of things she's learning. She's learning to draw. She's learning to draw to spec because there was a couple of custom orders as well of people, and she's drawing stuff. But then she's earning money. It's like trying to learn the
Oh,
value of money, which seems a little silly at such a young age.
no, not at
She's very
all.
clued up. But when do you teach someone? And the more you teach somebody something, the more they pick it up. So we've been doing that, and she's made a tidy little fortune out of it. And
That's awesome.
but the really interesting thing about the whole situation though is we went in a shop, and as we have to do any shop you go in, if it's got a toy aisle, you have to be in it. And you have to suffer the can I have this? Can I have this? And she seen something, and she was going on about it, on about it. And I think she'd been quite spoilt of late, and we're like, we're not buying anymore. Like, we'll make a united front. We're not buying anymore because she does get a lot. And wait till Christmas or whatever. So she was going on about this. I can't remember what it was. This toy, and I said, "Listen," I said, you're living federal, kid. You've got cash. Like you can get in there, buy yourself something. Like you've got money. If you want to buy it, you've got your money at home."
Mm-hmm.
And then this most amazing thing happened. She stood and paused, and she went, "No, I want my tablet." No,
Yep.
not even 4. She was 3 because she's only just turned 4. She was
Yep.
3 year old, and she weighed up the pros and cons of spending some of that money that takes away from her buying the tablet. And she was like, "No, I
Good
want
for
the tablet."
you.
She held back.
Ah, that is awesome. That is awesome. That's mastery right there. There's
So I felt
adults
like, you
that
know
don't
what,
know
it
how to do
actually
that.
worked. Every
Yep.
time, I think it's been like that since she's been born. Like every time you think, "Oh, I'm being a bit stupid here, over explaining something in such an adult manner," and then she's proved me right every time. Like she's proved that I wasn't wrong. Like you're not being stupid. I've
Yeah.
got it. I've worked it out.
Yeah.
That was one of the most amazing things about lockdown.
That's
Because me,
awesome.
obviously we were locked down. My wife was non-essential, so she was at home,
Mm.
and because neither of us were essential workers, she couldn't go to nursery. So we had to do
Oh.
all that time, months on end, just alone with her. And I don't know really how to dumb things down that well, and I sometimes forget my place and think I'm talking to an adult, and he explaining stuff. But like when she did go back to her nursery, she's way more advanced than the rest of them. And that's not knocking nurseries. They've got numerous children at various levels, so everything has to run a certain line and a certain course. But because we've done this, and she's pretty sharp, very switched on. So she is into it,
Well,
and she goes through waves with it. Much like me, one minute you want to draw, you've got so many ideas. Next minute it's like, "Oh no, I'm going to watch telly." But she just does it. Sometimes she does, but then all of a sudden she'll just go on this mad thing of it, and all pens are out and she's drawing and stuff, and it's really cool.
that's awesome.
And she
That's
did one.
really
It's on
cool.
my. She did one. She did one a few weeks ago on the tattoos on my Instagram of a turtle. And that's my favorite
Oh.
one that she designed because we were watching Finding Nemo and the
Oh.
turtles were on. And if you look at it, it is so close for her age. It is so
Wow.
close to that because she was watching it and then she picked up her pens, went drawing, and she was like, "Look, I've drawn the turtle," and I was like blown away, total blown away.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to look back at your Instagram. I was admiring her flash sheets, but I didn't know that this is what you guys did with all of that. That's epic, man. What a cool thing. Bravo. That is I maintain that well, I mean, you asked, how young is too young to start with money, but money is our power system. That's our exchange of goods and services. That is literally, it's a token of our time and our choices and our priorities. This is how we exchange. And I don't think any age is too young. I mean, that's super empowering what you gave her. Because
Yeah, I think
that's
so. I mean, I
showing.
didn't know, like
Yeah.
I said, I didn't know if I was being silly applying that level of ideal to that flashy, like and this idea made that she can learn about money and things like that. And not only that, as well, learn about work ethic. You work, you earn money, and things like
Yeah.
that. And I
Well,
didn't
and
think
not
it
only
would maybe
that,
hit, but it did. I
but
feel.
these people are getting her tattoos too, which is also a thing, right? Like people are
Yeah,
getting her work on them. And so you're teaching her also that there's value to her story, to her experience, that she's able to participate and that people will receive that and want to be a part of it. There's so many artists that don't, they don't think they're good, or they don't think they're good enough, or and then to see that this 3-year-old is drawing things and that people will buy it because they love being a part of that story, that encouragement,
yeah,
that
yeah.
process. That's super cool. So you're teaching her a lot of things. You're teaching her how she can affect her community, how she can connect, what people are already, excited for her. That's a big thing, like that's huge. That's a support system that not a lot of people feel, at 3, like that's really
Yeah,
cool. But like
yeah.
somebody got your
Never
tattoo.
thought of it as much as that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty neat. I mean, because that's how I look at it. That's why I was so mad during COVID because, people think of getting a tattoo. Like, why do you need a tattoo? Well, you don't need a tattoo, but on it because it's art, because it's the thing that connects people, because it's the thing that people rejoice in and celebrate in. It is necessary. It's people feeling alive, like they're doing something that makes them feel alive, and there's no way to do it remotely. You have to put yourself in alignment with another person. You have to commune, you have to meet, you have to risk together. There's something very powerful about that. And
Mhm.
like to experience that from a young age. I mean, I got it with my dad because he would do a lot of fundraisers for he used to play a lot of sports. So like they would have fundraisers for the sports teams and stuff so they could go on trips and like compete. And because I was always into art, he would dress me like a clown. I would go to the fundraisers. I would do face painting on the kids. Like I'm a kid, but I'm and they're paying like a few bucks for like a heart, a heart or something on them, and I'm dressed like a freaking clown. And my brother's doing like 2 balloon animals that he knows how to do, and he's selling those. Like we were hustlers right away. My parents were like, man, they were like, dude, you can do anything. They have a lemonade stand. They're selling this really dope lemonade, and it's all for this community effort. But see, that's the thing about being a small business is that, you're able to really feel this connection with the community that you're part of. I mean, my dad's business always sponsored, they sponsored sports teams that we weren't even on. Like, because that's what you do is that, when you're a part of a community like that, everybody feeds each other, everybody gets together and they love each other. That's what it's all about. So that's so cool, man. I love that. That's really cool. If you don't mind, I would love to definitely use some of her flash as some of the things that we put up for your podcast so that we can further talk
Yeah,
about that because that's
definitely.
epic. That's super
Yeah,
cool.
definitely.
That's really cool. Wow, that's awesome. Well, so you are mentoring. You're just mentoring her,
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
I haven't got one yet. I do want to get one. But
Yeah.
my plan is when I find a pen light enough, um, she can do it. Right, I want her.
Yeah.
But I'll maybe wait a little longer. Just a little less erraticness. Not in a drawing because I want it to be as crude as it is, but just like, oh, what's that? She's very excited, like quite excitable with things.
Yeah.
So I certainly don't want her around needles and so forth till there's a little bit more composure in that kind of arena.
Well,
So, but
one of the failings I had too in being a mentor is I kind of let my tattoo apprentice do things that when my boss, my mentor, saw what I was allowing her to do, he was like, I would scale it back. And I was like, let her see what she's got. And I mean, I freaked her out. And I think this is something you don't want to do with your daughter, but um he was like, it's better to give people smaller measures of accomplishment. And I do
yeah,
think he was right about that. Like you don't want them to get in over their head right away because they're just not going to want to do it after that. They're going to already feel like they can't. And when that's not even the case, it's like, it just wasn't scaled down enough. And you've done such a good job up to this point, scaling things that are really big concepts for her to participate in that I know that you want to keep that going. You don't want it to be like she picks up a tattoo machine and she can't do anything with it. It's too heavy. She can't do it. And then she feels like I can't tattoo.
Yeah.
You know, because she can. I mean, my boyfriend can. I want him to do a tattoo on me, but I think he's a little scared too. I'm like, you can handle it. You can't mess it up too bad. It'll be fine. I'll fix it, you know, whatever. But no, it's great. I totally agree with that at this point. I think that's a good way to be. Very good way to be. That's awesome, man. So, how many people do you have working for you right now?
I have two other artists, and I have a piercer as well.
Oh, nice. Very, very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, if I were to do it, that's kind of how I see it being. I would always want a place where either the podcast could exist along with some kind of educational kind of thing. I really love art, and like, you know, I think I can do it in a way that can make people fun, because I think my gift is, and I think you have it too, because you know what not to do. You know not to go and leave a bunch of kids with some still life and go smoke pot. Like, you know not to do that. So like,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
Okay, so I had to add this at the end of this diary entry, but I just realized something that I thought I'd share, and it seems pretty obvious, but I have to come off this. So I've probably recorded this exit about 6 times now, and it didn't feel good, and so I was like, well, maybe I should go back in my recording, because I do this stuff like relatively on the spot, everybody. I have to admit that too, just to let people know the creative process here a bit for podcasting. But and this is run on, so forgive me, but I just decided to go back and source the energy of kind of the last part of the podcast. I think that's a cool thing to do, because it kind of helps source what we have to follow it with. And that was a great energy to kind of wrap up this time with John Greaney. And I'm sorry, John, if I always say that as a question. That's how much I tend to get your name wrong. I'm actually paranoid that I keep getting it wrong. So anyway, I thought I'd wrap up with that, diary listeners. A bit of a confession, a bit of the process of this, wanting to share with you guys a bit more about, I guess, just shooting from the hip and doing something where you have no idea what you're doing and learning along the way. And I think that's important, especially since that's kind of how this happened. And if there's inadequacies of the show, I mean, it's only bound to get better, right? So, yeah. I think that wraps it up. Join us back next week. This is the conclusion of this diary entry, and we really hope you come back for our last entry with John. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is _apprenticeship_diary. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.